What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We are your hosts, Platinum Producers, Arkatech Beatz. I am Juggernaut.
I am Mike Trauma D.
And together we make the super duper platinum artist production duo, Arkatech Beatz. Of course, we need to put some claps on that. Hold on, let's do the claps on that. If it's your first time here, welcome to the podcast. What we do every week is we help artists, producers, songwriters just navigate this crazy music business by giving y'all tips and just talking about current events. Today we're going to be talking about Spotify versus the artists, or Spotify versus the artists, and it's the battle over royalties. And a lot of people don't seem to understand how Spotify pays its artists. That's the first thing, but then also are the artists being paid fairly? And there's a lot of controversy around that, and a lot of artists are opting to go direct to consumer because they don't like the royalty situation, and they feel like they're not being able to promote and market to their fans good, as well as their music is being undervalued. So let's get into this, man. Let's talk about this battle over royalties, because there's a lot of things coming out in the news in terms of some lawsuits and stuff that we'll get into that.
Jug, man, let's think about it like this, man. When all of these streaming platforms came into existence, did they go back and redo all of those contracts for all the records that are going to be on their platforms? Like all of these records from the the early 90s, even the 80s, I mean the 70s, I mean go on. Well, all of those contracts redone so that fair streaming is added into it. I highly doubt it. I don't think so.
Absolutely not.
Like there's no consideration. So all of those artists from prior, it's not in their contract. So how do they get compensated appropriately if it's not in their contract? It's never negotiated on their behalf. Like what?
But that's part of where the problem is because that language doesn't exist in the contracts, and the owners are the labels. The owners own the masters and so forth and so on. They were going to make the deal on their behalf and basically say, hey, this is what you get. Like, this is what it is. But the way that this stuff is going right now, that should have never really have happened. But in a situation where you had, like, if you remember the emerging technology of MP3s, Napster, all of that stuff, it changed everything. And they didn't know how they were going to monetize it. Like, remember before it was you was able to download the MP3s and it was 99 cents and all of that, and like they didn't know how they were going to monetize.
Well, what happened was they were losing money because of the internet. People were streaming. People were sharing between LimeWire and BearShare and all of these. They were pretty much Napster. They were losing and they didn't know what to do. As far as how they was gonna survive in this internet downloading streaming era. And apparently they between 360 deals and what they're doing with streaming is they it's like they're getting they just do it as they may seem.
Look, they're from what I'm seeing right now, and if we're talking about like I'm looking at the at this lawsuit right here when it says Universal Music Group is sued over Spotify equity ownership by artists in the class action lawsuit. It basically is saying that with Black Sheep, these guys are basically they're suing Universal from the class action lawsuit, basically saying that the other artists, them and other artists signed to Universal should have been paid 50% of Spotify's 2011 from 2011 due to a clause in their contract pertaining to net receipts. Right. And then they said that basically with them accepting a lower royalty rate from Spotify in exchange for receiving equity in the streaming service back in 2008. So basically they're saying they should have shared in that revenue. And then that
Yeah.
Black Sheep, another artist, should have received 50% of UMG's Spotify equity or the value of it, because according to the duo's lawsuit, this would have been proportional to their royalty contract.
Absolutely.
They're basically saying that they owe them and other artists almost 750 million in unpaid royalties as a result of these three
Ouch.
claims.
Ouch. I'm
So,
I'm I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
I mean, how could you be? It's like if you really think about this joint, it's like you said, they made a deal, a behind the door deal. It's really a backdoor deal. Nobody knows what the amount was that they made with Spotify. It's an undisclosed deal. And then they have equity shares, so they own a portion of Spotify. Like, how does that even work?
So the record label owns a portion of Spotify.
Yeah, all of them have an equity share in it. So basically, they're partners,
Right.
right?
So
So
how do you make a so where as the artists, the producers, the content creator, we're the ones that's actually left out in the cold.
absolutely.
So they go in and make a deal and kind of like, okay, this is what you get.
And,
Like,
and think about the people who aren't independent and who have record deals. Like for us, we've been able to put out music and we've been able to get our money directly from the distributor, right? And see
mhm,
what that money looks like. If you have a
right.
record deal, you're only going to get a fraction of that money that comes from the distributor. Like you don't,
Because you got a middleman.
right? You don't own 100% of the master, so you don't even really get 100% of that. You don't get that revenue that's coming directly from the distributor, directly from the streams. So like if you really think about the structure of a record deal, like it's really like rape on top of rape. One, you didn't negotiate the deal with with the Spotify at all, and then they're giving you a rate that you didn't agree to, and then you have to take a fraction of the rate that you didn't agree to in the first place.
And then you got to assume that their accounting is accurate. On top of that,
Oh, I don't want to even get into that. Like I don't ever want to get into that. Like because that's always been my problem when we talk about streaming and digital downloads and all of that. How do you know? How do
yeah,
you know? There's no way for you to know because they don't give you customer data. So there's no way for you to know that if they said that you streamed 500,000 streams, how do you know that's not a million streams?
yeah, because they're the ones that have to pay. So why would they even tell you the truth? To be
Come
honest with you,
on, man.
like
Like,
why would they say, hey, you streamed 5 billion? That would mean they would have to pay you on that.
so we should have named this. We should have named this episode the Spotify scam. Like, this is no, this is no different than like I say like this. Like, for example, like how you got sneaker replicas, right? These guys are
Hmm.
selling sneaker reps, whatever. Sneaker reps look exactly like their other sneakers, right? So if you get a pair of off white joints, Nike joints, whatever, they're gonna look exactly like the ones that's for real. You can't tell the difference. Why can't you tell the difference? Because they're made in the same goddamn factory,
Yeah,
right? So if
yeah,
they're made in the same goddamn factory, you can't tell me that the sneaker manufacturer is not privy to the black market and the counterfeit sales. And you can't tell me that they don't share in the profit of those sales. It's always that's always been the jug. The jug is to say you're Adidas and Kanye West, and you were making the sneakers in the back door. Those are sneakers you don't have to pay him royalties on.
right,
You get it?
right.
So
And
that's
and and it's gonna get bootlegged anyway, so you might as well
you might
be
as
a
well
part.
control it.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's the same thing when I look at this streaming situation. It's like, all right, there's no bootleg situation for the streaming situation, but who's to say the numbers are not reduced or throttled or or misreported, on purpose? Because there's no way for me to look at the server to know how many times it was hit. There's no way for me to see the customers that really, subscribe to the playlist or listen to the songs. There's no way for us to know.
there's no policing it.
Yeah. It's like it's none. So when I see that type of model, it's like, man, you're gonna tell me what I streamed?
You're telling me what you owe me. Like I'm leaving it up to you to tell me how much to get. Like
It's almost insane if
it's
you
like I
really
know
think
you. Owe,
about
it's
it.
like I know you owe me something, but I don't know how much. So I'm leaving it up to you to tell me how much to pay me.
Oh my gosh,
That's you.
that's really the model. If you really think about it, that's really the model. There's no way for you to know. There's just not.
What this should have been is that it should have been a third party, and
Yeah, come on,
but
that's even
even
worse.
but then even a third party
Could be
could be in
grease.
cahoots.
Yeah,
Like like you
like
know,
there's no way for us to really know what you're gonna get paid out of this situation. So this lawsuit look like it's gonna. It's this lawsuit looks like it's. I don't know if you have to find a judge that's gonna take it. And that's a whole other thing because you might have standing for a lawsuit, but you know it just doesn't matter what's going to go on in this situation.
now in all fairness, we can't just limit it to Spotify, can we?
No, to me it's all bad. Like Apple pays a little bit more, Title pays them a little more, but you don't know when you're going to get paid with them, right? It's like it comes when it comes.
Man, this internet thing, man, and streaming and the way things are done is the wild wild west, man. Like there's just so much things going on, on the internet when it comes to music, streaming, content IDing, you know, that is all over the place, and it's like you putting out music and you have to make sure that you don't get flagged for your own music. I mean, that's a whole nother.
It's a whole nother conversation for us to really talk about because that's a whole nother model in itself. It says here that Black Sheep's lawsuit doesn't cite any source for its claim that Universal struck an undisclosed sweetheart deal with Spotify in 2008, where it says whereby Universal agreed to accept substantially lower royalty payments on artists' behalf in exchange for an equity stake in Spotify. And it's saying that
So
the stake can be up to 7%.
so what? So Universal kept the stake and just gave. So they gave half the deal. They kept the stake in Spotify and gave the artist just a portion of the royalty.
What they did is they kept a portion of the company,
Right, and
gave them a lower amount
low, right,
to pay out to artists for royalties. So basically, they just just screwed the artist
right.
on that deal. Like
They
just
made they made they made a deal and then gave the artist a piece of that, a small like
it's kind of
they remixed the deal.
if you think about it, it's passed down to the artist,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it's like whatever they were supposed to charge them, they didn't charge them, and then they retain that, and then let the artist get what you're gonna get. The
So this is
artist was
why
really screwed off and all that.
this is why so many content creators choose to go direct to consumer. Like just leaving the middleman out, man, because you when you insert a middleman, they're gonna get peace, and if you're not careful, they may take it all, and you end up with nothing, So
So I guess what I would ask you is this: is that what can we tell artists to do, right? Like you just said, get rid of the middleman. How do you get your music heard? If you say, all right, you know what, Spotify is screwing me. I don't want to use this platform because I'm not getting paid what I'm supposed to get paid on this platform. But with this platform being so prominent, so dominant, so many people are on this thing. I call it almost a utility at this point, right? Because you pay for it, you don't even realize you're paying for it. It's part of your bills. You just have to have your music. So you have
um
to have one of these streaming platforms. It may not be Spotify, but it's one of them.
look,
How do artists navigate a situation where their music can get heard, consumed, and then them not really be screwed
I
by the
mean,
royalty system, how it's set up?
we touched on this topic before. Um, if you're gonna use look, if you're gonna use a third party, um, in any capacity, you're gonna have to adhere to that platform's rules, payout methods, whatever. That's just how it is. It's not your ball game. If you're using somebody else's platforms, you gotta. If you're in somebody else's house, it's their rules. All right. The thing you have to do is, okay, if I realize that, how can I make up for whatever I'm going to lose or not get? So I wouldn't say to totally just not use streaming services, because it does have its benefits. It does, for example, putting out a record today, it allows your music to be put across so many eyes. It allows you to reach areas that you normally wouldn't be able to reach. You know, if you're a kid from Brooklyn putting out music, you know, and you put it on Spotify, you put it on Apple Music and all of these entitled, it allows a kid from Florida who's listening to music similar to be able to pop up and see it on their stream. So it allows visual, allows people to discover your music. Okay, so that's one thing. However, I wouldn't limit to streaming services. I think that's what the thing is. I think you need to set up a website and have your own situation going. Something that collects emails, something that collects data and information so that you can have relationships with the actual consumer. You can put out a product that coincides with the music that's streaming, whether it's merch or any other thing you want to do, tickets, meet and greets, whatever. So that, okay, they're streaming and you're only gonna make a certain amount of money on that. Okay, fine. But here on my platform, I'm putting out products. I'm gonna put out a customized album that's direct buy only. You know, and this allows for the offset of not receiving those type of streaming revenues.
I think that's always the best play. Is to have your situation set up to, like you said, that you can have a relationship with the consumer. Like there's
Yeah,
just
because
there's
if you think about it, the streaming service gets all of that. They
yeah,
get all that data, and you don't, as the artist, unless you go into some portals, and hopefully they're giving you the right information. Hopefully these Spotify for artists and Apple for artists, like all of these portals, hopefully that the information and the demographic information that they're giving you is actually accurate. But as far as email addresses, like contact information, that's
it's gold. It's,
crucial.
it's gold, man. They
I
say
mean,
basically the data is gold.
it's one thing to know a person's region and the age bracket. That's cool. But when you get the actual contact information that you could actually reach out to your consumers and say, hey, I got a show in your area, or I got a new product that you may be interested in, or here's a free this or free that, and you could form those relationships. Like, that's gold. That's gold to you, and that's gold to the consumer. Like, the consumer loves that, to have a direct relationship with the artist that they admire, to get free stuff, to be able to know on a first name basis. Come on, that's what it's supposed to be. You know,
Man, it's if we can get artists to really understand the power of that. Yes, it'll cost a little bit more for you to set up in the beginning, but like you said, like to be able to have those relationships with your folks, like because you have to understand how hard it is to convert somebody to a sale. And like once you understand how hard it is to convert someone to a sale, it's if you've got someone to convert one time, you can pretty much try to develop that relationship so that you can continue to give them what they want. But you need that data,
right?
and what these folks have done is they have successfully removed you from the data. So there's no way for you to create anything that's sustainable for yourself.
Well, actually, what it's actually doing, it's using the artists to collect data for their own thing.
That's
So
right.
now all of the consumers that subscribe to a Spotify, they get emails from Spotify of information and things. Hey, we got this, we get that. But as for an artist, you don't get their emails so that you can send stuff to. Spotify and all the streaming services, they keep that for themselves. And that's needed. That's what you need in order to, like, these streaming services. All they do is they put out the music for you, and that's it. And that's it. There's no interaction on your behalf.
Right.
There's none of that, and you have to do that for yourself. You have to interact with your consumer. You have to make them feel that they're important to your project, because they are. They're the ones that are paying their money. They're the ones that are pretty much, you know, pushing you to stardom. So you need to have a relationship with them.
So check out this comment from the CEO and chairman of Universal Music Group, right? And I'm gonna share that share that on the screen as well.
Who's that? Lucius Grange?
Yep. So he's basically going to say, what's become clear to us and to so many artists and songwriters developing and established ones alike is that the economic model for streaming needs to evolve, which basically is telling you that this shit is bad. As technology advances and platforms evolve, it's not surprising that there's also a need for business model innovation to keep pace with the change. There is a growing disconnect between, on one hand, the devotion to the artist whom fans value and seek to support, and the other, the way subscription fees are paid by the platforms. Under the current model, the critical contributions of too many artists, as well as the engagement of too many fans, are undervalued.
Chuck, as you was reading that shit, yo, I was getting slightly ticked off. Didn't isn't he Wasn't he in the room making those deals?
It's hard to know. Was he the CEO at the time?
That's Lucius Grange.
At 2008?
Dude, yo, all that's gonna happen is that they'll make a new deal and they'll get a bigger piece. It's gonna continue. It's gonna continue. We're gonna continue getting crumbs.
The reality of it is that the money's already been made. At
Yeah,
least the larger sums of money.
yeah. But whatever happens forward, like, you're there, he's in bed with, and I'm not gonna say him personally, but Universal is in bed with Spotify. Like they have deals.
They're in it, yeah.
So if he's saying, yeah, yeah, it's a bad deal, all they're gonna do is, okay, we're gonna go back to the table, renegotiate, right? And they'll probably get a bigger piece, Universal, and they'll continue, giving maybe a little bit bigger crumbs. And then as artists and consumers, if you're not careful, you might be like, oh yeah, that's nice, but that's not what you're supposed to get. You're supposed to get a whole lot more.
They're saying right now the market capitalization, I guess, for Spotify is at $17.78 billion US.
How
Stock
much?
at $17 billion. Stock at $92 right now. Listen, that $750 million lawsuit, it probably could get paid out because
That number could be low too.
that number. Listen, that number would be low for them if they're making this type of money every year.
And on top of that,
Of their value, that
that's
17,
that's what
17
that's what they're
billion.
asking for, though, right?
Right. They ain't gonna get that.
Yeah. Then
Probably get a
there'll be
tenth of
there'll
that.
be a settlement. There'll be a
Yeah.
settlement. So it'll cut that. But I don't see it happening. I mean, you know, it's kind of late in the game for that. What they probably do is make a deal where they'll say, okay, we'll give you these crumbs, but moving forward from here on, we'll do this. And
But then the other question kind of remains is like, what happens to the next emerging technology, right? And that's what I've always been talking about. Like, you see everybody selling their catalogs. They said I think Dr. Dre will be selling his catalog in a little while for like 200 million,
yeah,
right? Cool. The people that are buying this, they're not buying it based off of the current model, right? Like, they know that something is coming. They know that there's a new emerging technology that's going to be a new way to consume music. The same way that we got this new AI situation for ChatGPT. You don't. There has to be some sort of emergent technology that these folks know is going to come, and they're going to use music as the engine, and everybody's selling their rights, not realizing that hey, you're selling it based on the current model of earning, and not on the future model of earning.
So basically, what you're saying is, as a tip, you know, something you said in our prior podcast. Don't sell it all,
Don't sell it all.
because you don't know what's going to come down the line.
You
You don't
don't
know
know
what
what's coming.
technology is going to
Like,
come that's going to
yeah,
utilize this.
who
And,
would have
and
thought
yeah,
that Spotify and these things would have come into fruition, and probably put so much money in a lot of artists whose music wasn't earning jack shit,
yeah,
right? Because for if your record wasn't in stores, you couldn't earn mechanical royalties. Period. They
yeah,
weren't being manufactured. So after you've sold X amount of records, if you were a legacy artist on somebody's shelf or on no one's shelf, you didn't earn any money. You may have earned money for radio play, and even that would be reduced because your songs are not quote unquote popular songs. You need to have like a hit, right? So for all of these artists that have like songs that are popping up on TikTok, old songs, whatever, like all this music that we can consume now, like you can go back and consume all of Isley Brothers catalog. You can go back and consume all of, Charlie Wilson and all of this catalog that you
and
couldn't
soon
do
and
before.
soon De La Soul.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like you couldn't consume that stuff. So there was no
Yeah.
mechanical royalties coming for you. So this changes the game for a lot of people and put food on a lot of people's plates. But the situation is like this. It's like your contracts don't have the language for the new technology, right?
Right.
That's the first problem.
Which is what happened prior.
Yes. So that's the problem with Apple, iTunes, iPod, all of that. Like you didn't have the language in your contract with that. And I don't know if
Right.
the lawyers are basically setting a clause in the new contracts that say, hey, if there's a new emerging technology that has to consume my masters, that needs to be negotiated in perpetuity.
Right.
I don't know if that type of language is being said, but of course, everybody's in cahoots with each other. Hint, hint. Shout out Kanye West. And you can't. They're going to protect each other in this bubble of business. That's the reality of it. I don't think that these things are left out um, unintentionally. I think these clauses are left out to make sure that you don't get a seat at the table when the
So
emerging
so
technology comes
you
out and
know
you don't have a say so.
all of our podcasts kind of blend in with each other. Because a lot of things that are happening, we need to kind of further drive it in our heads, like
Ownership.
ownership, the importance of negotiating properly, not leaving things up to your attorney or manager. I mean, all the topics that we have in our podcast, man, they all coincide with each other. And you have to look at your contracts. You have to know your business. You have to add these things. Like the same way we're here talking about this, and the attorneys may not do that. You're getting this information now. You may want to write down, you know what, I need to start putting some clauses in the contracts that I got moving forward the way that I want it. Because technology is changing rapidly. And you may want to think about that. You may want to think about how you could add something in your future contracts that's going to compensate and hold all of those things. Because you got to put the right language in there. You got to do
It's
it now.
it's real because look, we haven't even successfully been able to integrate NFTs in music.
Yo, what happens when AI gets involved?
Oh my gosh, it's already involved.
Like it starts using your music to create thousands and thousands of other pieces of music. What
And
if it uses
variations.
your template
Yeah.
to make thousands and thousands of derivatives? Like, how does that work? How will that come into play? Where it's breaking up your samples and re-putting it together, but it's based off of your template that you fed it.
That's the problem now. It can only build what's input into it.
It's only built what's inputted.
All
So it's
right.
basically sampling what you did and recreating and sending it out back to you. But it's based on your template. So what is that? And how are you going to put that into a contract for future situations? And that's just one scenario. It's as far as the mind can go. There's so many emerging pieces of technology that's popping up every day. You know, um, I saw the other day STEM player, and I think it's Ghostface Killer releasing something on STEM player or something. Where's that going to go as far as technology and royalties and things of that nature? Like, there's so many different things that's popping up day in and day out, and we got to pay attention and get ready.
It's crazy that you said that, man. It's like you have so many different things that are coming out, and we're just standing by and just watching it come out, and it's like, okay, everybody's just watching it go by. People are just watching the train leave the station, and you didn't get on, you didn't do anything. You don't. There's no way for you to monetize yourself, and it's because we're too busy just settling for the crumbs in the situation. Like, something just came to me while you was talking as well too. It's like, with everybody buying everybody's catalog, right? If in some weird way that the music catalogs are going to be owned by a certain portion of people, right? Then they'll be able to control not only the music itself, but then they'll be able to control the cost of consumption at some point too, right?
Yeah, because they
Right?
control the platforms and the avenues of getting
Yeah. If
the
so, if
music.
Universal and these guys in the equity share said, "Hey, you know what? It is too low. We're going to raise it. We need to raise the royalty rate." It's going to be passed on to the consumer. And at this point, you're so locked into your way of consuming music. If that's the only place that you can get it, you're going to have to pay what they're telling you to pay. It's kind of like with BlackRock and these folks that go around and buy all of the rental properties and then rent it through the roof. It's like they own all the real estate, so they can charge whatever they want to charge.
So basically, it's almost like they're copying just basic real estate.
Yeah.
Buying all the land to the point where there's no land for you to buy, and they just rent it to you. You got to live somewhere,
Yep.
so they'll rent it. The same thing that can easily happen with music. I mean, we all listen to music, and we're
No,
so
it's
tapped
it.
in at this point that you know they can own they could all own all the lands, aka music, you know, and then rent it to you with
But
subscriptions.
but that's exactly what's happening. Is that
This
it
is
is being
yeah,
rented to you through subscription.
right.
Well, you know what I'm saying?
So
So
it's exactly
so
what's happening. So what happens when they control 100% of the music that's out there?
so we just cracked the code, brother.
What happens if they control all music? What
We
happens when
just
they own all masters?
we just cracked
Yours,
the
mine,
we just cracked the code, brother.
everybody. And music becomes one of those things where it's almost a luxury.
Listen,
They can charge whatever they want to charge.
you just
You
cracked the
know.
code because at the end of the point, like at this point, you can't get music outside of those platforms anymore. Like
Oh my
the
God.
days of really going and ripping something and downloading it, like, I mean, they allow you to do stuff like on YouTube and stuff like that if you have the extra, you know, they don't allow you to do it, but you can do it. But at the end of
I
the
did.
day, you couldn't get like you can't get the music like how we used to get it.
Yeah. So when you think about it like that, and it kind of circles back around as far as how important it is to have those relationships with the consumer. You know how important the data is, and that's what Spotify is doing. And they control those things. And they give you the crumbs. Along with all the other streaming services, they give the actual consumer. Sorry, not consumer. They give the content creator the crumbs. And if you have a situation set up where it's direct to consumer, sort of like boutique, and you can. That's where I think that's where it's at. That's where
I
you
think so
win.
too.
I think you got to use the streaming services for what you can use it for. But you can't just use them alone. You gotta use other things in conjunction with it. Use the streaming service as your ad platform. Use your music as a piece of ad, like an advertising to your product, your real product. And I think I said that in another podcast. Use that as an ad for your real product. Whether it's your clothing line, your your beverage brand, your makeup brand, whatever it is. Use the music, use these streaming services as uh, a space to place ad, like your commercial. Use your music and think of it as a commercial to your product, because that's what they've been doing to us for ages.
It's real.
Every time music is in a Coca-Cola commercial, every time a McDonald's commercial, and you hear a hip hop record, they've been doing that for us for forever. And we're the only ones not kind of like utilizing our own music to really push our products, our real products. We're too busy settling that music is the product, and music shouldn't be the product.
It's one of those things because we have to reiterate to our listeners that the royalty rate is so low. In order for you to make $2,000, right, which is basically what would we say? We would say that's like if you make $2,000 a month, you're at what, the poverty level, right, in the country,
Yeah,
give or take
that's yeah,
$24,000 a year,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? For you to make that on Spotify, $2,000 a month, you need a
That's a lot.
million. You need a million streams, and everybody who's listening and who has music out distributed through DistroKid or TuneCore, so forth and so on, you know how difficult it is to do a million streams, right?
Yeah.
And if and for us, it's like, okay, you've done a million streams here and there because you have instrumental music and so forth and so on, or you have music with big names. And even when you have music with big names, it's hard to do the numbers.
Yeah.
Like because if the algorithm ain't treating you right, right? Because again, the algorithm has to favor the people who have the equity stake. You get it?
Yes. Right.
Are you understanding why
Yeah.
why is the Spotify scam? The algorithm has to favor the people who have the equity stake.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has to do that because
Why
remember
wouldn't? Why wouldn't it? Why
because
would
they
I? Why would I create something and it doesn't benefit me?
because if you think about it, the people who have the equity stake get the music. They get the music at a discount, right? Because
Hmm.
they get a discount from uh from Universal or so forth, so they get to use that stream that music at a discount. From you and I, we don't have that deal, so there's no reason to prioritize your music because it's not going to be able to get consumed at a discount.
You know what I just thought of, Jack. We're content creators that have contributed to Spotify, right? Like
Yes,
we've right. Why are we paying a subscription?
it's a cold world, brother.
If if
If
if
you're a
you're a
content creator, you
if
shouldn't
you're
be
a
paying
content
for a
creator,
subscription
if you're a content creator, and you put out music that's been on Spotify, you know, why are you paying a subscription to listen to your own music?
It's a cold world, brother.
You know, like
It's
it
a
just
cold.
dawned on
It's,
me
it's
just
a
now,
cold
like,
world. Yeah,
yo,
it's a
yo.
cold. It's a
So
cold
so
world, man.
we produce these records, and if I want to listen to it, I gotta have a subscription.
What's the subscription now for
Uh,
Spotify now?
$9.99, I think.
It's not 14.99 anymore. It's still 9.99.
I think it's $9.99, unless I got some grandfathered shit. I don't know. I saw a pop up the other day, like, yep, 9.99 going to Spotify. I was like,
I got a
yep,
family plan. That's why my joint is higher. So
okay.
so
So that's
so
so your kids can't even listen to the music you
so
produce. You
look.
gotta add them.
So what you got to do is in order for you to pay for your own plan, you got to stream your own music maybe 10,000 times. Like, this is the game, folks. Like, this is the game. Like, you have
You
to
would have
realize the game
you
within the game. And then look. Some things you can't control. We can't control that. We can't control what it is. But
yeah,
if you know what the game is, you can navigate this board a little bit better and say, okay, you know what? I can't make it here, but I can use this to make it there.
right.
And you have to be able to be smart about, like we said, going direct to consumer, creating your own website, creating your own ecosystem.
You have to.
I gotta tell people, listen, like the YouTube ecosystem is not yours. Um, the Spotify one, even YouTube is even worse. I think YouTube's rate is actually a third of what Spotify's is. So that's even worse in terms of music consumption. Like, they probably have the worst rates for music, but have the best rates for content creators for videos. So YouTube is
Platform.
playing a different type of game, that they're saying, hey, if you use us for videos, and you're monetized, you're going to do a lot better than if you're just trying to monetize your music. Like, you're better to monetize your music through video than just trying to do YouTube music, because you ain't going to get paid nothing on those rates.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
it's a different type of game. You know what I mean? Because they'll give you a bigger share of the ad revenue if you're part of the content, the partner program, in terms of
mhm.
monetization. But so by far they're the best when it comes to that, but not when it comes to the actual royalty rates for streaming of music, like how Spotify or Apple Music. Apple is a little better than the two. Of course, Tidal pays more, but again, they're all they're all very hard to for the independent artist to really get the traction. You got to spend a shit ton of money in the promotion to get the traction, or you have to have something that's viral. And if you ask me, I think viral content is gatekeep too. I think there's a gatekeeper in front of viral content. And I think that sometimes people pay for viral content through influencers to
Mhm.
give you the perceived notion of, virality. But I don't know if it's actually true, viral. Or
Right.
was it started by an influencer or somebody with a large following that kind of perpetuated something to go viral? And then in the background of that situation, those things are paid for anyway. So
So, Jug, so with everything with streaming services, the Spotify, Apple, Tidal, and just the way royalties are being paid out, clearly there's is there anything that we can do? Is there anything that can be done, or is the class action suit? Is that something people could get into, or
I
you
don't know
know?
if I don't know if they can get into it. There's a link that people can go look at the complaint itself.
Hmm.
I haven't read it. I think I need to go take a look and see what's in the full complaint, because
Right.
you have to think about it like this. It's like we also have music release slightly after that era. Like, you figure Black Sheep is 91, 92.
Hmm.
And then you figure out our first release is about 5 years after that.
Hmm.
So, you know, there's a good chance that our contract would have mirrored what their contract is in
Okay.
some way or fashion. Our contracts, whatever we may have signed. And back in those days. Because again, our contracts didn't cover any of this stuff. It didn't have the sound exchange in them. It
Right.
didn't have iTunes in them. It didn't
Hmm.
have all of these things, the MLC, all of these new companies.
These are fairly new companies.
Yeah, that came out in the late two in the in the early 2000s. None of our contracts would have had any of these organizations in them.
Right.
So, it's something that people have to keep an eye on. And listen, your lawyer is not going to tell you this stuff. Your lawyer is going to use, in most cases, are going to just use the templates that they've always been using,
Right.
because especially if they're not charging you by the hour, and if they're charging you by the deal, that saves them time. So they're just going to keep going back to the same templates. And maybe if there's some sort of new thing that comes out, they may add the language for that. But they're
If
not.
it's big news, they
If
may.
it's Yeah, it's not. In some cases, they're missing that.
Right.
You know.
So
So
it's up
it's
to you.
yeah,
So
it's
basically
up.
up to you
Yeah,
to
it's gonna
kind of
be it's gonna be up to you to make the decision on what you want added in your agreement. And if you're
right.
not privy to the business, and we keep saying that, you got to be privy to the business. You can't just leave it all up to your lawyer. Your lawyer is going to put what your business is into contract form. If your business is bad, lawyer can't save you.
Right.
Like that's the
Absolutely.
reality of the situation. But we got to see how this thing plays out. I would suggest everybody go over and go take a look at this. It seems like the complaint is public.
Hmm.
Just to kind of get an idea of what was missing in their contract and making sure that you can protect yourself against this type of situation. But we don't know what the next technology is.
So
You
I
know,
mean, it's like I said. I mean, you have to be very open minded, and if you're going to be in this business, you got to really think. It goes hand in hand with technology. So
yeah,
you have to prepare for whatever's going to come in the next 10, 20, 30. Like, you know, anything could come down the line. Anything can happen. And your best thing is, and they always say, man, you got hold on to some ownership.
yeah.
Hold on to that quote unquote piece of land, because you don't know.
You don't know. Like you really don't know what's going to
You
happen.
know,
But to your point, though, the way that these music catalogs are being purchased, and they're buying the catalog of the top songs, the top producers, the top songwriters, the top artists. All of those things are being consumed, being paid hundreds of millions of dollars for, and no one is scratching their head and saying, "Why? Where's all this value coming from?" Because for some people, they're paying much, much more than they would get in royalties. Because Irv said the same thing. Like I wasn't getting but this much amount in royalties every year, but that deal turned into you know hundreds of millions of dollars. Like how did you turn half a million or $1 million in royalties per year to a 200 or $300 million deal?
hmm
Like that's supposed to tell you that there's something coming, that they're going to get that money back,
yeah,
and you're just not privy to it.
yeah. Like maybe some emerging technologies that's going to happen in another 5 to 10 years. That's going to you know explode. And they did such a great job in kind of downplaying music. You know, kind of making it feel like it's not important and trying to lower its value. And they've been doing that for a good while. Kind of just making you feel like your music isn't worth anything. But at the same time, your music is needed in all of these. From movies to video games to commercials to everything. Music is needed. So for them to be trying to position us as if music doesn't matter. Producers and writers, like, specifically, giving away music for free or lowballing themselves, like, they conditioning us to make us feel this way. And look how much they're making, and look how much they're going to make, and it's going to continue going in that direction. So, I would have to say, to all producers, man, just to be mindful of what's going on, and act accordingly. Hold on to that quote unquote real estate. Hold on to some ownership.
So that's to me that's always been the game. That's always been the game. The game is like they do it in almost every sector. Say, for example, you have a new company, a new tech company is supposed to be the biggest stock IPO. It comes out. Then you get the FUD, right? The fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They use the marketing machine, they use the media machine to say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
something is wrong with this company. It shouldn't be valued at this. It shouldn't be valued at that.
It drops.
Just drops it.
Mm-hmm.
They continue to FUD it out, put
Mm-hmm.
more negative news on it, and then get it to the price that they want it.
Mm-hmm.
Then they come after. So you lose your shirt because you may be the passive investor
Yep.
who've invested all of your time and your resources
Yep.
into that.
So
You
they get
can't
you out.
ride the market
They
out.
get
They get
they
you
get you
out,
out. Mm-hmm.
come in, buy all of it low,
Mm-hmm.
and then now make it skyrocket like what you're seeing right now with rent prices and
Yep.
all
They
kind of
do it.
different type of things. Like so, this has always been the game, like you said, to kind of devalue your anything that we create as a community. They find a way to put this devaluation on top of it, on the background, can own all of it or obtain it all, and then over time, you just start seeing all of a sudden, like, wait a second, where are these big deals coming from? I thought you said music wasn't worth nothing. It's a lie, and we're too dumb to see it because we're too caught up in the immediate. I need this, I need
Yeah.
that now. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Distractions and immediate gratification.
yeah, like so that's really where the big situation is. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this lawsuit. Um, look, they're talking about the digital currency taking over coming soon. As far as the so a lot of blockchain technology is going to be implemented in banking. They're talking about Swift and stuff being moved around. What does that mean for music? What does that mean for streaming? What does NFTs mean for music? Like that hasn't even really been exploited.
Yeah, it's still the wild wild west.
You know,
We've been involved in the NFT for a minute, and you can see it's really just all over the place.
it's all over the
Everyone's
place.
trying to figure it out. People are trying things. People are just experimenting with this, doing that, but it's still all over the place. And on top of that, you know, um, contractually, you know,
It's a whole different game because
yeah. So
I think that's the only reason why it can't really blow up is because there's too much red tape or too much gray area in terms of who owns it,
right,
who's the copyright owner, and if that can be worked out, then
yeah.
that's going to be a serious situation. But we have to wait and see how that looks like. Well, listen, man, that's the Architect Beats Music Business Podcast, folks. I'm telling you, like, listen, make sure that you are following whatever you need to do. If you have questions about the music industry, hey, hit us up in those comments or DM us and say, hey, I need to know how this works or how that works. In the future, what we'll be setting up again is just ask us anything types forums where we'll have webinars and we'll be start talking about different things where people can kind of see what the situation is. If you haven't already got the book, The Songwriter's
Right.
Guide
Yeah.
to Song Registration, it's out now. It's free on the website.
Free jewels.
Free jewels so that you can learn how to monetize and protect your music. Like this is the big thing right now. We're trying to tell you how to protect your music, how to monetize your music. You have to watch every dollar if you're independent, and you have to create every stream of income if you're independent if you want to live off your art. And that's
Yeah,
just the
man.
reality of the situation. So if
Pick it up,
if you
man.
don't know
Just
how if
go
you don't know how
download
to
it, man.
monetize it,
Yeah. Go
you're
get
gonna
it.
have problems.
Go get the free book, man. Like just go download it, get it, boom, save it. You know, the information is there, and we're gonna be releasing, more things and giving you more information. And hopefully you guys use it, man. Hopefully you use it and apply it, and you can make some money and save yourself a lot of headache. Me and Jug through the years been through a lot of things, man. A lot of ups and downs, and we always wish, man, we wish somebody was there in front of us to kind of be like, hey, don't do this, don't do that. I did like this. So, we just, giving you back that information so that you don't got to go through some of these crazy and unfair things, man.
It's real. Like the importance of having mentors, even if it's like, just being able to have access to information. Like we didn't have that at all. And I think like you said, like I would have given my left arm for a lot of the information that we given a lot of people. Like, like
Yeah.
it saves you so much time. It saves you from having the making the mistakes that we made coming up. Like you don't
Some
want to make those
costly
mistakes.
mistakes, man.
They cost. They cost. Like some of
And
these
and
some of these mistakes you can't bounce back from.
and listen, man, sometimes these mistakes get in the way of your creativity.
It's real.
And if it gets in the way of your creativity, man, how are you going to be able to move this culture forward, which is what we all want? How are you going to be able to create? Because at the end of the day, our kids are going to rely on some of these things that's happening now. So, we're doing these things so that our kids and the next generation can continue off of this culture and continue building and growing this thing. And that's what it's about.
That's what's up, man. But until next time, folks.
Peace.
Peace. Peace.